Hello everyone, this is Mohiuddin Ahmed Suman, and in this video I am going to talk about API and REST API. So we have two parts, API and REST API. First of all, we will discuss about the API part. So what is API? API is Application Programming Interface. Basically it means whenever two or more different software services want to communicate with each other, they need to have some kind of process to communication for the communication to happen between them. This process is actually known as the API. So communication between software services. Some examples may be Google Maps, cloud.google.com/maps platform. This is the Maps API. Then there is YouTube API, there is Twitter API, and all other giant companies provided different types of API to communicate with their services. Okay, then REST API we will talk about it later. So here is a television. Think of it as our application. We want to change maybe its channel, or maybe we want to see YouTube or Netflix in this television. So how we can do that? The simple way is to use a remote controller. Okay, so in this case the remote controller is the interface. The remote controller actually giving us the solution to connect with the television. Okay, so the remote controller is connecting human with this application. So this whole process may be called as application human interface. Why? Because human is responsible for the connection to happen. We just need to press this button to go into this channel. So this process can be called as application human interface. Now let's think about this problem. Suppose we want to collect some data from Facebook, we want to fetch some data from Facebook, and we want to manipulate and show that data in our website, which is mohiuddinsuman.com. So we need some kind of process to fetch the data from Facebook. The solution is interface or endpoints. Now in this case the interface is this link. This is actually an API provided by the Facebook to get the data about a page. Okay, so if I want to get data about a page, I will provide this that page's ID here in this link, and when I request this to the Facebook server will give me the data, and I can use that data to my website however I want. Now think of this is the application and this is the interface, and who is actually responsible for this two to connect is the programming we have done in our site. We are not like in previous cases, we as a human we are pressing the buttons, we were responsible, and now what is happening, we are just maybe in our site we just do some programming and write this interface. So by programming we are actually using this interface by programming. So thus this process became application programming interface. I hope you guys understand it. So API is clear. Now let's move on to the REST part. REST actually means the representational state transfer. To understand the REST, first of all we need to know about the resources. So what are the resources? Think about a bank. Okay, so in a bank there are many entities like customers, account manager. Generally we say the nouns of organization are the resources. So the customer is a noun, and the bank will have a customer, will have many customers. So customers are resources, then accounts are resources, managers are resources of the bank. Okay, then there is some sub resources like account. So sub resources are some resources that depends on other resources. Account is dependent on the customer. If I do not have a customer, I cannot have any account. So these are the resources. Why we are talking about resources? Because the REST actually follows the resource based URL system, which we will talk about later. But first we need to understand what are the resources. Now we said that customer is a resource. Maybe we can call a customer like this slash customer. Maybe slash customer will give us a customer information, and if we are talking about the collection of customers, we may use this slash customers. Now what does this word representation means in this scenario? Now this resource, customer resource, may have different datas to fulfill it in this particular scenario, which is a bank. Okay, so this customer may have an ID, this customer may have a name. So all of these datas make this customer resource. So this customer resource have an ID of 1 and name of Shumon. So the representation means the resource with all the variable or all the values in it. Okay, so then we talked about the sub resources. Sub resources are the resources that depends on another resource, like account depends on customer. So for this customer, for this customers having ID 1, we can say we can search about their account like this slash URL customers ID, then account slash customer account number. So this is a format of URL or endpoints. What does it mean? It means that whenever I will request this to the server will server will send me information about this particular customer who has ID 1. Okay, so this is the representation. And state, what does state represent? State to represent the data like ID 1, name Shumon. These are the data for this, for a particular customer, and the state represents all the data. Then transfer is like in general moving from one place to another. So in our cases, transfer means representation of state from server to the client. Okay, so representation of state from server to the client. What is representation of state? As we mentioned, the representation of state will be an object of the resources with all of its data, like this customer, this is my resource, and this is its particular values or data. So the rest is a predefined structural architecture of the web that have set of guidelines or to create an identifiable properties. This is like a formal definition of REST. So what are the properties? Some properties are REST uses HTTP methods and HTTP status code. What are the methods? There are like get method, post method, put or delete method, and there are different status codes. So let's just see them in action on this. Okay, so this is our site. Okay, just a simple website. Now if we inspect it, okay, it actually opened, and go to the network, then to a reload. Okay, so this is okay. See, this is the image of myself. Okay, to PNG. Now if we go to the header, here the request method is get. Okay, so this is an HTTP request method. It is our request URL, it is our request method, it is our status code 200. 200 means okay, 200 means okay, the request was okay, the server find something and send something back to us. So what we are seeing here, we are seeing that these are some HTTP methods and status codes. What we are saying here, that the REST actually uses same HTTP methods and HTTP status codes for them. So let's go and see one REST example. So if we open this link in our browser, so if we open this link in our browser, we will see something like this. Okay, so this is open weather map, and this link is showing current weather map in Dhaka. So let's suppose we want to actually fetch these data from this side, and maybe we want to show it in our app or our website, whatever it is. So maybe we just need these data. Okay, what is happening here is whenever we are sending a request through the browser, this site is responding and sending us some resources like this HTML CSS resources. Okay, so we don't need all these resources, we just need the data, we just need the representation of these data. Weather map provides us some API. Okay, if you sign up here, you will get an API key and you can use their API. So for this API, let's use the Postman, and we are creating a basic request. You can download Postman or you can use it as a Chrome extension. Just Google it and you will find it. So we are creating a basic request to the open weather. Maybe we are naming it test, request description optional, so it will be in the Postman echo directory. Okay, now what we are seeing here, type, what type of request we are dealing with. As I mentioned, the REST API actually uses all the HTTP methods, all the HTTP request type like GET, post, put, all of it. So we want to just read the data. So for reading we use the get parameter and our request URL. Okay, so this is the URL. If we go to the parameters, we can see in this URL there is ID and there is app ID, which will be your actually the API key. When you sign up you will get it, and this is the ID value. So in this particular API, the ID value represent the CT ID. Okay, so now if we send a request, we send a request and we get a we receive a answer from the server. Now this is the JSON type response we get from the request we made to the server with the get type of request. So what we are getting, we are actually getting the same information we got earlier. Okay, so this was like for the Dhaka, and if we go here, see, this is name and Dhaka. So we are getting all the values, and actually we are getting the values now instead of all the resources like HTML CSS resources. We are just getting the data, and now we can use these data in our app or application however we see fit, and there is the status code. Okay, so if we get standard HTML, standard response for successful HTTP request. So this is an example of how you can play with the REST API. You can go to this site, open weather map, sign up, and you will get some API to play with. So now I think, yeah, we are done. So please subscribe, consider subscribing, and give us your valuable opinion so that we can improve, and consider subscribing. Thank you all.